expired, and I call the member for Moreton.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak on the motion put by the member for Greenlow, who knows my electorate of Moreton well. I've stood alongside him on many places in the south of Brisbane because I've got an important confluence of transport links. The Ipswich motorway coming in from the west, servicing people from Toowoomba, Sydney and beyond. The motorway connects to either the north via Ipswich Road or the east via Granard and Raina roads. Desert Roads brings people from the southwest through Acacia Ridge and Maruka and into the city. Oxley Road, an important link to the growth corridors of Forest Lake and Heathwood and beyond, where they go either over the Indooroopilly Bridge or the Western Freeway. Train lines like the Ipswich line, bringing people in from the west through Oxley, Corinda, Graceville and Chelba, with a spur off to the Beenleigh line through Tennyson for goods and coal. The Beenleigh train line connects the Gold Coast and Brisbane, the standard gauge interstate train line, which connects all the way from Perth through to Melbourne and Sydney and right up to Acacia Ridge. The goods depot at Tennyson, next to the Brisbane markets, the beginning of all the goods that journey north right through to Cairns. And Mains Road, Deputy Speaker, the second busiest bus route in Brisbane that isn't actually a busway. Moreton's transport routes are very busy and, sadly, they're becoming more and more congested. I've got nearly 19,000 businesses, many of them connected with transport. So traffic congestion is becoming a daily battle for many of my constituents, travelling either to work or study, and even on the weekends when they're trying to access play. But it's not just the inconvenience of being stuck in traffic, driving bumper to bumper for kilometres on end. Traffic congestion has an economic impact on growth in Queensland. The Maryvale Bridge is currently the only rail crossing over the Brisbane River in the city's CBD. That's between the city of Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and it is fast approaching capacity. Without a second rail crossing, Brisbane's economic growth will be reduced, along with its capacity to create jobs for the future. And this is probably why the independent body, Infrastructure Australia, has already approved the Cross River Rail project. In fact, we had the former Transport Minister, who has an electorate in mind, who was ready to go to the press conference with Anthony Albanese to announce it, but sadly was sabotaged by Campbell Newman. The former Labor government funded the project in 2013, but sadly since then the Turnbull government has failed all Queenslanders by stalling on this important infrastructure project that we need right now. Increasing the capacity of the rail network would not only benefit people living in my electorate of Moreton, but it would directly benefit people travelling into Brisbane from regional areas, not just Gold Coast to the south and beyond, but also the Sunshine Coast to the north and Toowoomba in the west. There's been deathly silence from the LNP federal members representing people in these regional areas, despite this infrastructure project having a direct benefit for their constituents. This project would facilitate an additional 19,000 bums on public transport seats during peak hour, which would make our roads less congested. Importantly, increasing the capacity of the rail network would benefit all Queenslanders by fuelling economic growth everywhere north of the Tweed. The LNP betrayed our national car industry for short-sighted political reasons, but it is a no-brainer to invest in this type of infrastructure. If our cities are congested, our regions suffer right along with our urban areas. In the 2017 budget, the Turnbull government did not announce any funding for the Cross River Rail. However, it did announce funding of $8.4 billion to build the Melbourne to Brisbane Inland Rail, the biggest rail project in 100 years, they said in their media release. A Warren Trust legacy. There is one problem I can see with this project. It ends at Acacia Ridge. Acacia Ridge is not on the Port of Brisbane. It's right in the middle of my electorate, with so far no plan to get the freight from Acacia Ridge to the Port of Brisbane or vice versa. No plan that doesn't involve double handling of freight and more B-doubles on the streets of Moreton. There are a couple of options available to move freight from Acacia Ridge to the port, between Acacia Ridge and the Port of Brisbane. One option, build a tunnel from Acacia Ridge to the port, a tunnel right under the homes of people living in Sunnybank, Robertson and McGregor, with ventilation shafts going in the middle of these homes. The other option may be for another train line to be built alongside the Gateway motorway. That option would have a devastating impact on Karawatha Forest, one of the largest remnant bushlands left in Brisbane City. That would concern, obviously, also the residents of Runcorn, Currabee and 8 Mile Plains. Sadly, neither of these options have been funded. The Turnbull government it's like another fibre-to-the-node type nation-building project, that it just stops at Acacia Ridge. The trucks will move the freight from Acacia Ridge by road, which is the transport solution, is like of the equivalent of using copper in the NBN. This would create further congestion in my electorate. The Turnbull government needs to do more.
I thank the member for Moreton and I call the member for Fisher.